Hi everybody and welcome to this bite-sized episode of Hospitality Huddles. Every week, or as much as I can, I want to try and get on and give you a quick short blast about one subject a week that you might be able to take back to your operation and implement to help you grow your business success. Now, today's subject is following a post that I did on LinkedIn about the 20 tips for a winning formula to transform your hotel F&B. And today I'm going to give you some great insights into what these 20 tips are, give you a little bit of examples to go with them, and hopefully you can take some of these back into your operation and can help you improve your performance. Now, running any F&B outlet is challenging in the current landscape. We all know this, especially with the rising costs on food and beverage, on utilities, the labour challenges. And believe me, no matter who I speak to, where in the world, everyone seems to tell me very similar problems. So it's not just you out there. But what we have to remember is because of the cost of living crisis around the world, guests are expecting a more experiential visit every time they come to your business. So what we're seeing in clients that we work with in Europe, in the UK, Asia, US, is that people aren't necessarily spending less, but they want much more value and much more experience when they do spend the money that they're going to spend. Now, it's likely that your teams are lower skilled and that costs are spiraling, but being successful doesn't need to be challenging. I spend a lot of my days working with hoteliers to improve their F&B, and every hotel needs that they need to make some changes. Believe me, there's opportunities in every single operation. And we're going to show you some examples of great people who are doing a really good job in the industry. Now, we can always think of iconic hotels that are always talked about, but there's some people who don't get as much recognition that I think are doing just as good a job. And these are people like Ennismore, so the guys who have 25 hours hotels, and obviously the iconic Hoxton Hotel. Civilian Hotel in New York is a great example of how they've done an amazing F&B offer. And it isn't one of the normal ones that you would hear, but trust me, go and check out those guys, Civilian Hotel in New York, and you're going to see an amazing offer that they have there. And then one of my clients, the Social Hub, have a brilliant community feel that goes through all their F&B, their community spaces, their co-working spaces, and I know how much effort that their experienced team put into their operations. So check out some of those people because they're great examples of who are doing it really, really well in the industry right now. But I promised you 20 tips, so let's dive into what these brands are doing well, and let's pick out some of the tangible actions that you can look at as well. And it's some of the things that we do to implement into the hotel operations we use. So everything I say to you here is things that we do as Odin Hospitality when we work with hoteliers as well. So there's no reason why you can't do the same in your hotel. So let's get into it. So the number one for me, and this list is not in chronological order by any means, but I did put the first one as one of the ones that I think is really important. Make spaces fun and not just functional. Now, every time I go into hotels where performance isn't necessarily where it should be, you see functional elements to their food and beverage, and they seem to have lost all the fun. Turning your dining spaces into vibrant, engaging environments where guests want to be a part of it, creating memorable experiences for the guest is so important. I'm going to give you an example of a hotel I was at the weekend, and it was one of the big global chains. Now, it was there for a rugby match. The rugby stadium is just next door to it, and it had quite a lot of people there for sport. They had TVs in the bar areas, but those TVs weren't showing sport. And you would think that with the market being people who are going to watch the rugby, that the sport would be a great one to keep them engaged in that bar area as much as possible. Again, people were going there to watch the sport. They're high on energy, they're ready for the game, they're full of optimism, yet the music wasn't playing loud enough. The music that was playing wasn't actually quite right for the environment, and all the lights were turned down. So it was a real dull setting where the tone was being set by the conversation. And I always say to people, the tone should never be set by conversation. It should be set by the ambience. So the music should be in there. It should be pumping high. And that should give people the energy to then drink more, to talk more, and to stay engaged with your brand. So make spaces fun and not just functional. Number two, This is a great one, and it's one that you'll hear me talking about a lot of times on LinkedIn, on podcast episodes that I'm on. Engage the local community. I'm a huge believer in that some of the best hotel food and beverage outlets that are around do this really, really well. It's probably likely that you're not going to fill your restaurant, even if you're in a resort hotel or if you're in a country house hotel with the people staying in the hotel. So engaging the local community is key. You need to build connections and provide value to the local community. And then when you get those people in, the restaurants are hustling and bustling, and it's the local community providing the foundation to your business and not the hotel guests. You're going to find that your hotel residents will want to eat in the hotel because they're going to see a great environment going on. Whenever I go to hotels, honestly, I'm quite lazy. I'll be doing some work. I'll want to see the local area, but I would love to eat in the hotels. And if there's a great environment, a great buzz about it, I'll always do that. So engage in the local community, create a restaurant where people want to go to, and your hotel guests will naturally follow. Number 3, profile your guests. Super important for a lot of reasons. Number 1, it's really important that when those guests come back to your business, you show them that you care. By looking at their profiles and listing things into their profile about them, it helps you personalize their experience on their next visit. We work with people like 7 Rooms, we work with people like Open Table across our businesses, and you can always use tagging on their platforms. So I would really encourage you to go today to your reservation system, look at what tags you have in there, and look at how you can start tagging your guests through your reservation system. It could be anything from big spender, it could be regular guest, it could be likes red wine, it could be a number of different things. But this means that the next time that guest comes in, you have all the information built on them to be able to go and give them a personalized and wow experience. What I'd also like to look at in profiling is once you've done that and you've been able to build it up, you've got a great example then to take to the marketing team and segment into their CRM system so that you can start personalizing communication after the visit to them. So you could do this by going in there and going lunchtime, only eats at lunchtime. What your marketing person can do then is personalize communications by sending an email that goes, Mr. Smith, we see you always come in at lunchtime. Why don't you come and try us for dinner? And if you do, because you're a regular guest with us, here's a glass of wine on arrival. The guest is going to get something that feels super personalized to them. And that's going to encourage them to come back because they're going to feel recognized and they're going to feel rewarded. So really look at how you can use profiling within your reservation system as a real super tool for you to be able to go and talk to these people afterwards. Number 4, personalization is key. Use these guest profiles, as we just talked about, to tailor choices from the menu items to dining preferences and make a more personalized dining experience. Try and do this pre-arrival by using some of the automation emails in the systems, but then also do it during the visit by using the tags that we just talked about, and then after visit by sending them an email afterwards to thank them for coming in and talk to them in a personalized way. Trust me, it's going to make a massive difference to how your guests view you and feel recognized in your business. I learned a stat once that repeat guests spend on average 67% more in their lifetime than a normal first paying guest. So it's really key that you get people to return to your restaurant. I'm working with a restaurant right now who brings people in every month, and we're able to extract those people out of third-party booking engines and Google searches. But the return rate isn't great. And we're working on a couple of different things to focus on that, such as surprise and delight, guest of the day, personalization, recognition, to really try and drive that home. Because the theory is if you can keep bringing in new people into your business every month, but you can also keep bringing people back to your business every month, you're going to naturally grow revenue at a higher rate because you're bringing new people and you're bringing old people back to the restaurant. So it's really key that you focus on that personalization to get that recognition and repeat guests back. Number 5, I've put under the title, Simplicity Can Shine. Sometimes a simple but well-executed concept just like an old-fashioned pub, can outshine more complex alternatives, or where people are trying too hard to make it fit into a certain hole that it doesn't fit. So make time to truly understand what your guests want and then deliver on it. But again, don't forget, sometimes in the right location, a great pub, a great bar can sometimes do the trick just as well as anything else. We opened a bar actually in the brand new Intercontinental London Westminster in 2012, and it was the first Intercontinental that was opened in 36 years. I was the hotel manager, and it was located right in the middle of Westminster. The hotel's now Conrad St James, if you want to look it up, because 12 years on, the pub called Blue Boar is still exactly the same today as it was 12 years ago when we first opened that business. The design, the look and feel, the way everything works, it's exactly the same because it's ingrained itself perfectly in the local community. So it's a great example of how sometimes making the concept fit to what the local area wants and needs can be just as good as trying to be clever with a different concept. Number 6, the power of productivity. So if your space accommodates remote work, make sure there are ample power outlets that people can use. We're in a world of digital nomads. It sounds basic, but so many people get it wrong. So if you want to be a place where you want your all day down in lounges to have people there working, hustle and bustle all day, people doing business meetings, you've got to make it convenient for people to go there. Not having power sockets, not having plug points and things like that just makes life difficult. So really focus on this because it makes a big difference. Number 7, perfect table heights. How many times have you sat in a restaurant and the table's either been too low or too high, or the seat cushions have readjusted the heights and it hasn't been thought about properly, and it just makes it really uncomfortable for people to sit at your restaurant. So go around your operation today, sit in all the different seats in your restaurant, in your bars, in your lounges, and see if it's comfortable for people to sit. So many times I go into hotels and I go into all day dining lounges that is made for people to go and try and eat and drink there, but also to do work. And they're on lounge tables that just make it impossible to do it. It's the type of thing that can get on customers' nerves, and it just means that they'll go elsewhere to a Starbucks or similar down the road because they aren't comfortable sitting where they're sitting with you. It makes a massive difference. So really go around and look at those perfect table heights and see if the target market you have today fits with what your design says to that customer. Number 8, a welcoming street entrance. Now, if you're in build stage or if you're looking at potential properties and you're listening to this, a great street entrance makes such a difference to F&B. It breaks down all the barriers and the hotel stigma, and it attracts local guests more easily. So when you're doing your hotel design, your zoning and making it work, really look at whether you can incorporate an outside entrance into your F&B because it really will help with this. If you're in an operation right now where maybe you don't have that, how does the signage around the business work so that it really makes it clear what each outlet is, and how does it ingrain that into what it's all about? So really have a look at that. Number 9 is measuring the seat utilization. Now, this is a new metric that I've started using recently, but it actually really makes a big impact in the business because what you're doing here is you're tracking whether your business is actually as busy as you think it is by tracking utilization. Now, what is utilization? Utilization is total available covers by actual covers as a percentage. So what this takes into account is turn times and availability and what you actually serve on a night. And maybe you might look at 100 covers and think that's a great night, but in reality, actually, is 100 covers a great night? So measure utilization because it's going to make you think really differently about the business that you're running and how busy it is. And what it'll do is it'll open your mind to look and go, we have more opportunity in this restaurant to make more revenue if you're in a busy one. And it's going to show you the opportunity if you're not. But measuring utilization is a really different way of looking at your business than just total covers. So that was quite a bit to get through in numbers 1 to 9, but some great points that sat in there as well. And now we're going to go into the next 10 that's going to give you your 20 tips to really smash F&B. So great example of some great stuff there. And let's go into a few more. So number 10, branding matters. So give as much attention to branding and guest interactions as you do to the concept itself. Consistency and engagement in messaging is key. What do I mean by branding matters? Guests will associate with your brand much more than they will your design or your hotel. So really look at how you can talk to customers with branding. This is no different to what lots of companies do around the world: Nike, Adidas, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, chocolate bars, drinks brands, you name it. Branding matters. Think of a Nike advert and what comes to your mind. There's the emotion of the story that goes into it. And then you have the brand Nike and their iconic phrase, just do it. That talks to you as a consumer. So always make sure that when you have your branding, you're talking to the guest and you're giving them reasons to go. Emotive posters, things on social media, back of house storytelling, all of this makes a huge difference to the concept and how you position your brand. If you develop an amazing concept, but just open it up and ingrain it within the hotel, it gets maybe one post every 6 or 7 times on an Instagram timeline. It doesn't get its retail space on the website. No one's going to engage with your brand. It's one of the things that I see hoteliers do quite a bit is they don't look at how they can position their F&B concepts and their F&B brands away from the hotel. And it just gets caught up in the news of the hotel. Always look to try and get as much of that brand equity to the guest as possible so that they can build a connection with your brand. Separate social media accounts, separate websites, ways to talk to people internally. All of these things make a big difference. But it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen often. So really get your concept to talk to the consumer. Number 11, breakfast and dinner separation. There's one thing that used to really drive me crazy as an F&B operator, and I'm sure when I say what I'm about to say, you're going to think the same too. When you go into a restaurant and you see the people setting up for breakfast before the restaurant's closed, it drives me insane. There's no way to tell a guest that you're a hotel restaurant by setting up for breakfast and putting teacups and spoons down on the table before the last guest has left. It should just be a non-negotiable, but it happens so often. The hotel I was in at the weekend did exactly the same. It happens, and I get it. Staffing's hard, people are on long hours, people are on late earlies, but it has to be a non-negotiable. The same thing in terms of not wanting to see a breakfast buffet or where the breakfast buffet goes when they're eating dinner. You wouldn't find this in a normal restaurant, so why should you find it in a hotel restaurant? So it's really key that you work with your designers or you look right now with your teams at how you can eliminate breakfast from a lunch and dinner operation because no one wants to see it. If you want to take a couple of things away from it, let this one be one of the ones that you can do today that could make a big difference on how the guest views your operation. Number 12, focus on your USPs. You don't have to make everything in-house. I have this conversation with chefs all the time. In hotels, we're in this bad habit of where we think we have to make everything ourselves, and we truly don't. And I always say to people, what are your USPs? And focus on making them 120% great every single time and be consistent. Don't buy everything in if you have staff shortages, if you have skill limitations, because all you're going to do is you're going to dilute your USPs. So if you're in that situation, highlight your USPs and try and buy in the other elements. There's some great vendors out there today, so you can buy in some amazing quality without compromising on what you do. But fundamentally, it'll create consistency. I'm going to give you a great example. We worked with this hotel group. They had an okay bread basket, but it wasn't a great bread basket. I said to the chef, why don't you focus on doing one bread amazingly well and get rid of the other ones? because the guests want quality. So instead of doing an okay bread basket, do an amazing bread offer, and that will have a much bigger impact on the guest experience. So it's a little thing that can get overlooked that could have a real impact, not only on the guest perception of your product, but also on the stress you're putting on your back of house teams. And that's going to make a big difference to what they do and how they are at work. Collaborate with local heroes. Back onto this point about not making everything in-house and outsourcing. Who are the local heroes who can add value to your brand, help with your collaboration, and make your life easier? Simple example, instead of serving frozen pastries at breakfast, which personally I don't ever eat, collaborate with a local bakery who's known for the quality and flavour and can bring a story to your experience. We did this with our clients, the Social Hub, when we worked on a breakfast operation, and we put an element into their breakfast buffet, which was local heroes, and we highlighted which of those were artisan made from down the road that had real quality. Guess what? They were the ones that kept getting chosen every time, again and again and again, by the guest. So really look at how you can make life easier by collaborating with local heroes. Not only does it help with workflow, but it can also make a massive difference to your guests' perception of what you are. Number 14, keep it real with tea. I'm a big tea drinker, and sometimes a great Yorkshire tea will do just fine. Don't try and posh things up unless it's an experience for afternoon tea or it fits in the environment. Sometimes just serving a great English breakfast tea will do. Now that one was a bit fun, but the next one is serious. Elevate your coffee game at number 15. Guests now can get amazing filter coffee in coffee shops. You can go there and they've got the flasks exactly like you'd find in meeting and events, but the coffee is phenomenal. But when I go to hotels, still, I taste filter coffee that's burnt, that's stewed, that's been there too long, and it just doesn't work anymore. So if the coffee shop down the road can serve an amazing filter coffee, why can't a 5-star hotel or a hotel do the same? Make sure your team are trained by baristas and make sure that you're regularly testing the coffee in the areas that need it the most, and make sure that the coffee is amazing. With so much competition nowadays, it's probably the one thing why I see people are moving from the traditional hotel lobby lounge into coffee shops, because it's much cheaper, it's much better quality, the table heights are good for working on, and it's an all-round better experience. Now, if I'd have said that to you maybe 10 years ago, you'd probably think I was crazy. Today, it's probably one of the biggest things that impacts revenues in all-day dining lounges. Number 16, incentivize quality. Senior F&B directors, in my opinion, should be motivated to prioritize team food and quality of that food. Excellence should be rewarded to make sure you get the very best experience, and think of your team like guests, as they have a much more important impact. When I worked for the Dorchester collection at Coworth Park, I used to get more comments from my GM about the staff food than I did about anything else. And it was because my focus was always on the guest and never on the food that was served in the canteen. But it makes so much difference to each and every one of your team if you can give them a great lunch, dinner, food experience. So really focus on that. And if you're listening to this and you're a leader of a hotel, focus on incentivizing quality of your team food to your F&B directors and exec chefs. Number 17, quality over quantity. So when it comes to breakfast, focus on quality and not quantity. Exceptional food will always be remembered, and sometimes large buffets aren't always the answer. Now, in some environments, resort hotels, all-inclusive hotels, you have to give an abundance. I get that. I get it's part of what it is. But really focus on quality and really focus on how that can be delivered to the guest rather than putting on too much abundance. In boutique hotels, independent hotels, really go into quality rather than quantity. We're doing this with a hotel group right now where we're really looking at how we can focus on individual and personalized experiences. So, for example, putting individual portions of items out, but then also having a variety of items where they can build their own breakfast because it makes such a difference to them and they feel like they've got convenience as well. 18, seamless dining experiences. I read a book, Building a Brand Story by Donald Miller. It was an amazing book that talks about building your brands, and I'd encourage anyone to read it. But one of the points that he says in there is don't make your guests burn too many calories to understand who you are, and make it really simple. This is the same thing in hospitality. Don't make it difficult for your guests to buy from you, because they won't. It's simple. So look at your operation and sit there today and try and work out if you are making it as easy as possible in every single scenario for a guest to order from you. And the hotel I was in at the weekend, and I keep bringing these guys up, but they had self-service around most of the lounges and bars. When it got busy, all that did was create queues. And it made it really hard for people to order. So try and open that up. We're coming to some ways of how you can do that shortly, but really look at your operation and go, where do I make it difficult for people to buy, and how do I overcome it to make it as simple and as easy of people to buy? 19, room service redefined. Treat room service like Uber Eats, DoorDash, or Deliveroo. Make sure that the guest needs are met efficiently and seamlessly, and digitize the experience to make it seamless. Once you've done that, innovate the product. And remember, when a guest orders Uber Eats, they don't get it on a tray served under a cloche. Do you have the opportunity to make life easier by making it much more like a delivery aggregator than it is a classic traditional hotel room service? I often ask hoteliers why they don't serve room service, and a lot of it's down to equipment and down to team. But if you think about it, the way Five Guys serve a burger and chips isn't underwhelming, but it's done really well and it's served really easily. So is there a way you can build into your guest experience trying to do something a little bit easier? Coworth Park, the Dorchester Collection, we used to have pizzas on room service, and when it went on a room service, we used to serve it in a fully branded pizza box. It looked great, it tasted great, and it did exactly what it said on the tin. It's just a great example of how you might be able to unlock a revenue opportunity by doing something really simple. Maybe you just start with pizza and a burger, and you see how the guests like it, and maybe you increase it from there. And that's why I call it room service redefined, because it doesn't have to always be done the way we've always done it. And then finally, number 20, embrace technology. I've touched on it a couple of times during this podcast, but really look at how technology can embrace your team and enable them to get back onto the floor to do what they do best, which is looking after guests. Whether that's inventory systems, great EPOS systems, whatever that might be, really look at your tech and look at how it can help you improve what you're doing. The number of times I go into hotels and they're using legacy tech and it's making life difficult for the team. It takes too long to put orders through the till. And I always sit there with them and go, look at the QSR models that are out there on the market. How can they serve people so quickly? And it's largely because of the way they engineer their EPOS and the way the EPOS is structured. So really look at other people in the industry from other sectors to see what they're doing to help make your experience better for the guests. And then we just touched on it with room service, but really look at whether digital ordering can help improve what you're doing. You could use it in your bars, you could use it in your lounges, you could use it in poolsides, you can use it in room service. It's got a huge opportunity to make a big difference within your business. I've seen some stats from Iris, who work with some of the big brands like Marriott's and Hilton's, and they have some amazing stats from an average check increase and an order uptake increase once you put digital ordering into the business. We've just recently put it in with a client into a poolside operation, and we've seen a 24% order uptake simply by putting in the digital ordering. That's a huge increase of revenue without doing anything different in the business apart from putting a QR code on a table. The guest is happier because they get to order quicker, they don't have to queue up, they don't have to wait for a waiter to come round, and you don't have the stress on the business that you would have done if you'd have had to try and make that happen otherwise. So really embrace technology and look at how it can help you and help you in your business moving forwards. So there you go, 20 tips. Some of them for pre-opening, some of them you can do now. Most of them you could look at today and you could see if you can improve your performance by doing it. So there's some really good tips that sit within this. Be confident in the fact that hotel success is tied to the performance of F&B. It makes a huge difference to TrevPar if you have a successful F&B. So as much as hoteliers can tell you that F&B drives them crazy, actually F&B has the potential to make them look strong. I have an equation that can go with this and can help the TrevPar scenario, and it goes like this. Full rooms plus strong F&B equals loyal fans. Full rooms minus weak F&B equals low TrevPar, and empty rooms plus weak F&B equals a missed opportunity. I'm going to leave you with that equation for this week. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for listening. And I can't wait to bring you some more amazing guests on Hospitality Huddles in future. That's it for this week. I'm going to see you next time. Have a great one. Thank you for listening to this bite-sized episode of Hospitality Huddles. It's been really good talking you through the 20 points, but if you want to learn about how Auden Hospitality can help you with some of these points in your business and how we help hoteliers to think differently about their F&B that creates outlets their guests will love, visit our website at www.audenhospitality.com or chop over to LinkedIn, and why don't you give myself, Scot Turner, a follow or Auden Hospitality a follow and see how we help hoteliers in real life as we talk every day about the things we're doing to grow F&B performance.